Okay, welcome to Module 12 on transcribing techniques. Now, we talked earlier about ear training and how important it is to listen to the intervals, listen to the chords so you can start identifying where the chords are going, what they sound like. Everybody is carefully making a selfie picture with your cell phones of your listening face and uploading it to the Google so that I won't be the only person in the entire theory class to have a picture of my listening face. So you come on guys, start uploading, I'd really appreciate it. But as you're listening, one huge part of developing your ear is developing transcribing techniques. Transcribing is the act of hearing a piece of music or somebody speaking and turning it into its written form. So if you'll see there on the left, I talk about Audacity, and we're going to go through it. You can use any audio editor. You do not have to use Audacity. But here's why we're looking at Audacity. It's free for everyone to download and use until Jesus comes back, or the people that wrote it decide to start charging for it, but I doubt it because they're not those kind of people. And it's cross-platform. It's Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever you got. It's great. You can use these techniques, though, with any audio editor. Most of the people that are using tablets and things, especially the iPads, GarageBand's a fabulous one, and we've got some resources of some tools that you could use in the back. But it's a little bit harder to do this with GarageBand and some of those, but you can totally do it. But Audacity's killer. I highly recommend it. I use it all the time, and a lot of pros do. So you can download Audacity or get any other editor that you're used to using for this technique. Now, the first step in transcribing is we want to understand what the harmony is going to be. We want to understand the chord progression. In fact, there's a term I like to throw out, and I think we need to put it in the notes, called harmonic rhythm, or how long does the harmony last. So if a D chord lasts for 4 beats and then it changes, the harmonic rhythm of that D chord is a whole note, or 4 beats. Okay, and so what we want to grab a hold of first in our skills is learning where the chords are. When the chord shifts, what chord did it shift to? Now we break that down even further by learning the bass note first. So lesson number 1, when you are learning to transcribe, the first thing you want to do is figure out the bass note. If you can figure out the bass note, it starts getting easier from there. So as you train yourself to listen to the bass note, there is one danger that you might get into, which I have fallen into, which if you get to where you're always listening to the bass note to figure out where the sound, the chords are going, you become less of a friend to bass players that don't play the right notes. Because when a bass player misses the note, you totally are aware of it because you've trained yourself to listen to the bass note first to figure out where the harmony and the chords are going. Okay? So this is a danger I want to let you know. I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek, ha-ha, but all my friends that I play with a lot, the bass players always know that I'm always listening to every bass, and if they even think about going to a different note, my inner bass note radar can tell and gives them a dirty look or whatever. I'm half kidding, but we got to find the bass note first. So I want to show you how we can do that, and I'm using Audacity to do that. So let me turn on the computer to record what I'm doing, and I'm using this song "How Can I Not Move" from Jeremy Burke's album. Don't pull up the chart yet. I want you to just take a glance first off at the screen. I'm just going to play a little bit of it first, and then I'm going to stop and start. So just bear with me as you're watching on the screen. Here's the first part of the song. You'll notice so far it's been the same chords over and over. But I want to wait until the bass comes in so we can hear it more clearly. Summer rain on my face. Your wrist washes away every trace of the day. And right here the bass comes in. So I just hit stop, and I put the cursor, if you can see on the screen, I'm kind of wagging a little bit, and I'm clicking right at the spot of the bumpy waveform, these bumps and jagged edges are called the waveform, right about where the bass is doing. This is why we want to use an audio editor, because we can visually see where we're at in the timeline of the song. Now, then, as I've clicked there, I'm moving over to this right side and zooming in my view. Right now, our view can see the entire song at once. You can see all the way from the top of the song to the bottom. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm zooming in where that cursor is placed. Almost all audio editors work similarly. And so I'm just zooming in tighter and tighter. I might have to zoom out a little bit more in a second, but if I hit play from this standpoint, this is just a second or three right before the bass comes in, so I'm going to hit play at this spot. Exactly where I want it. I'm going to zoom out just one notch, and then I want to actually get myself identified where the bass note starts, which I think is right here, if you can see where my cursor is. So right now where the playback head would be, there's this peak, and then there's another peak, and then so this second one here after where my playback head is I think where the bass comes in. So I'm going to select that in a second. I'm going to hit play one more time to make sure I know where I'm at. Yeah, so it does start right here. So now I've clicked there and I've moved my cursor there. And then what I want to do is I want to take the first section of music that I need to figure out and only select that part of the audio. There's a couple ways of doing it. So now I'm going to zoom in again. And again, most audio editors will work similarly where I can move visually what I'm seeing just a little bit. So I'm scooting this over so I've got a little more room to work with. So now I'm at the same spot in the song, but I just moved it visually over a little bit. And I'm going to hit play one more time and just to see where I'm at. Boom. And it changes again right here. So we hear three different chords. We want to find out what that very first chord is. So as your ear gets faster, you can select larger chunks. But here at the beginning stages, you want to select the smallest possible chunk that you can. So I want to just listen to the first chord. There's a couple ways of doing it. In most audio editors, I can click and drag, and now I've selected that portion of audio. Another thing I can do is I can have selected, this is going kind of slow. I can have the first part selected, hold down the shift key, and then click again at the end of what I want selected, and then it'll select only that part. So now what I've done is I've isolated just the first chord. I just zoomed in a couple more times. So if I just play that, if I hit play now, it'll only play that chord and stop. Except it won't do the thing again. We may have to stop then, because I don't know if I can do this like that. Okay, let me take it one more step. Now, I can hit play over and over. Almost all audio editors have a loop play function. This is where you can't really do this easily in, say, iTunes or most consumer playback stuff because you can't loop it. In Audacity, there's a couple ways of doing it. If you pull down the transport menu and it says loop play, as opposed to regular play, you'll also see that it has the arrow and space, which means if I hit shift, hold down the shift key and hit spacebar, it's going to loop play whatever I've selected. Now that sounds a little annoying at first, but watch this. If you take a look at the screen and then look at what I'm doing on the keyboard, I want to find the bass note. That's the whole point. So I've just looped just this one chord, and I want to find what the bass note is. So I'm going to hunt around. If you think that I've found it, somebody holler. Okay? I'm going to hit shift and space to loop play, and I'm going to use the bottom end of my keyboard. You can also use the lower end of your guitar to find the bass note. That song kind of sounds okay. It's in the chord, but that's not the bottom one. Let's sing it. You hear that? That's the lowest note. Ooh, no, ooh, doo, doo. That's the lowest note right there. Okay, now this is going to seem a little laborious at first. The more you do this, the faster you get. That was an E. Okay, so we write down an E. We figured out the bass note. It's an E. Now the next thing is to determine, is it major or minor? What's the quality of that chord? Again, I'm hitting shift space to loop play. Here's an E. If I make a major chord, does that sound right? Okay, here's a minor chord. Sounds right? Okay. So we got an E minor. That's not too shabby. If you just walked up and hit play, you wouldn't have known. But if you go through this, what's the bass note? Oh, it's E. Is it major or minor? It's minor. Sometimes it's one of the other four forms of triads. Right now we know it's E minor.